Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion, plays a Binding of Isaac Afterbirth. Plus, here we are with 12 wins in a row. It's a far cry from 50 or 60, but we're getting back in there, hopefully. BKLJP17Q. Well, we have very good damage, and the straw came through in the clutch in a huge way there. We have a terrible rate of fire. That's inconsequential early to some degree, but very, very dangerous as the game moves forward. Honestly, I almost think if you're doing the little things right, which I did not do in the videos I recorded yesterday, you just wait yourself out there and try to get the straw to give you an actual chance to get like a half spirit heart payout. That's how I'm feeling about this right now. Look at that! Okay. And you know what? I mean, why wouldn't you just wait again at this point? Doesn't take very long, and it'll kill all of them. And it gave us another half spirit heart. Oh my god. The man is... Get me away from here, I'm pogging. And now, was that a reference to the seminal indie pop album, If You're Feeling Sinister by Belle and Sebastian? No. Yes! You're gosh darn right. Anyway, this run is... oh, hate this. Has shaped up in a nice way. Which really, nothing has changed except my own attitude, but it has definitely improved. You know, I mean, again, it's going to take us 20 years to finish this room regardless. If it's going to take us forever, why not take forever but, like, do it properly by just using the straw to kill all the enemies? This probably, literally, is costing us less than 20 seconds. If you look at the amount of time it would take to walk over and shoot everything. For the chance to get a spirit heart and also the benefit of not having any risk associated with it, I think it's a gimme. I think that's a gimme too. And guess what? I think to spend a half spirit heart to go into an early curse room, that's a gimme. And then you come in here, you pop that early, obviously. But Little Brim is good enough. Is good enough to... Yeah, you can set your watch to this item early on. A little later, it's probably not going to be as productive, but for the time being, it's got some very good stuff going on. So I am being a little bit foolhardy here, waiting for my next straw play. I really don't know if the odds to get something out of the straw scales with the amount of enemies that are in the room. Or if it's just, if there's an enemy in the room, you've got a chance to get a payout. But either way, I mean, I stand by this floor. Couldn't have gone much better than that. And we will, again, just come into this room. The dream would be if it's not good, just give me enemies. I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna take it. I'm not afraid. If there were enemies, we could have strawed them and gotten some HP back, but... We should probably focus not exclusively on using the straw for value, but instead, like, you know, killing enemies quickly with Little Brim now. But this is it's a great setup. It's a great setup. That being said, if it scales with enemies, if your chance of getting a Spirit Heart scales with the amount of enemies on a room, we are going to wait this one out and use the straw, because this counts as, like, 12 enemies. So our chances of getting a Spirit Heart are quite high. Look at that reaction time. I'm willing to do it one more time. It's maybe a little bit overkill, but I feel bad I didn't play very well yesterday and we got the wins regardless, which I'm incredibly thankful for, but it would be nice if we could, you know, have a day where we're a little bit more focused. And, you know, it is a little earlier for me today, so there's no rush. I know I left you on a cliffhanger. I did indeed get to finish the final season of Dark last night. So no fear. Even after that mammoth Isaac run, I found time to get that done. So I'm happy. How do I feel about it? I mean, it's weird. I don't like to talk about TV shows unless they're so ubiquitous that like almost everybody has seen them. Like when people talk about Breaking Bad, and then like one person in chat is like, "I wish people would shut up about Breaking Bad." I'm like, just watch it. It's good. But I understand Dark is a little bit, you know, some people, for whatever reason, foolhardily don't like, they don't want to watch shows with is what a lot of people say. It's not what I say. But, And you know, it's a little bit heady as well. I'm not saying that it's, you know, impossible to follow, but what I would say, I guess, is that you have to be in the right mood to watch it, because you got to focus to understand to some degree what's happening and maintain some coherency in the plot. Yes, please. Sure. Why not? It is gonna neuter Little Brim a little bit, but that's okay. And our rate of fire is so bad we're not shooting bombs that often, but that also might be for the best. Anyway, let's move back a little bit here. Yeah, Little Brim is going to be a little tougher to... Well, I don't know. We can actually charge up a shot pretty easily, now that I look at it. Yeah, I was going to say, that's got to work there. But anyway, what did I think? Well, again, I don't want to get too into it, you know, because if you haven't seen the show, it's a pretty boring topic of conversation. I would say that I actually thought top to bottom the show was really good. I think that the third season was not as good as season 1 or season 2. I think season 1 is by far the best, but I also accept that in any show where you do a certain degree of mysterious world building, you have a distinct advantage in the first few seasons, because you can tease out little breadcrumbs. Ooh, what's this? What's this? What's this? And when it comes time for the resolution, you're inevitably going to rankle some people, because in their head they're like, this isn't how I thought this was going to come down. You know, oh, it seems a little rushed, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, I think they very much did right by the show's viewers. You know, they didn't cheap out on the ending. They closed it with some finality that didn't seem to cheat by their own rules, and I think they did a great job on the show. I'll be very interested to see what those show creators do next. And also, again, a surprisingly breezy watch. 3 seasons with a total of, I think, 26 episodes. It was like a 10-8-8 sort of deal. Well done. That's my thoughts on the subject. Well done. Sir. It's very rude of you. Okay, get some Little Brim action going here. That's what you're looking for. Oh, baby, when there's synergy, there's synergy. Fire rate increase. Literally doubled our rate of fire right there. This is kind of a weird one. I almost think the answer is take nothing. Because we're not going to be charging shots that often anymore because our bombs come out so frequently. We're pretty unlikely to make Dark Prince's crown work for us. That's a weird one, but I think that's a rare case of legitimately taking nothing. And I think we also do not use 2 of diamonds to buy an item in there. Weird. What a weird one. And I'll argue with you till the cows come home that I think that one is doing the little things right, quite frankly. We'll see what comes from our deals with the angel here. Did I really use a bomb to try to open that chest? No, I didn't, because that's not even where the chest... Oh, that time I did. All right. Well, not that it matters. Like, if you have unlimited bombs, what does it matter if you use one from your limited stockpile? You got unlimited ones backing it up. It's not like you're going to be like, oh, I wish I had more bombs later. But yeah, everything's going well. Dude, I think I mentioned it last night, but I had the opportunity to play a little bit of that new TrackMania game. Had a good time with that. Highly recommended? I don't know. I think it's one of those things. So if you're not familiar with... I don't know why I would press the space bar there. If you're not familiar with the new TrackMania, it has... And this company, I don't mean Ubisoft, I mean specifically the developer of the Mania games, is always trying weird stuff with their games. They're always doing like either subscription services and, you know... hey, it's free to play, but if you play past 20 hours, then it costs you 10 cents. That one I just made up, but it's a hypothetical. You know, they're always doing kind of interesting stuff like that. And I am glad I'm on the side of the industry that I'm on, but I always think back to Titanfall 1. I know it's in 2020, the history and the narrative is that Titanfall 1, not really that good. And Titanfall 2 was like, oh, underrated classic. I can't see why they made Apex Legends instead of a Titanfall 3, dude. Maybe it's because everybody waited until it was $2.50 on sale on Origin and bought it. Instead of buying it when it's full price, the game cost $300 million to make. But anyway, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying that might be part of the reality of the situation. But I really like when the Titanfall beta came out in 2013. I was like, this is going to be the best multiplayer shooter I've ever played in my life. And I watched as the narrative surrounding it slowly turned. from this is like the coolest movement that I've ever seen in a video game. Oh my god, how did they do this? This is incredible. To, wait a minute, it's not gonna have a single player campaign? I'm not gonna buy it if it's not gonna have a single player campaign. All games should have single player campaigns, blah, blah, blah. And I don't necessarily disagree. That, and especially I mean, it's almost even a worse, more inhospitable environment for it now that multiplayer shooters are free with microtransactions. But back in the day, it was still, people were like, right, here's my games marketing take, okay? And it is not galaxy brain by any stretch of the imagination. As soon as you give people an easy way to say, oh, I'm not gonna buy that, I think we don't buy it, honestly, there. I think as soon as you give people something like a back-of-the-box, oh, they didn't check this feature, that you can look at and be like, I don't like that, you've screwed yourself a little bit. Like, TrackMania is weird, because it's almost like, oh, that's so good. Intended to be sort of like a live environment where they're constantly testing new maps and, you know, they almost have like live events and like curation and stuff like that. So in many ways, it's not that like dissimilar from something like a World of Warcraft or a Final Fantasy XIV. Let's not take any of these. That would charge you a monthly subscription fee. But I also understand that when people see that, they're like, wait a minute. I buy the game for 13 bucks. I think it's actually 10 bucks US, but I buy the game for 10 bucks US. I get access for a year, but after 1 year, I would have to buy like another year of access. Even if on like a logical level, dude, our luck stat. Even if on a logical level, people are like, well, you know what? For 10 bucks, you're getting a great game, and you're getting a year's access, which is more than, you know, you play most games for to begin with. And if you want to get it again, it's another 10 bucks. The idea of like games as a service has a lot of pushback against it. For some reasons I consider like pretty valid, some reasons I consider a little knee-jerk, but that's like, you know, it's my preference, right? I think you kind of created a situation where instead of the discussion being about the game, the discussion comes, starts to become about like the business model, which is very frustrating because I don't care. We've had the round table years. Sorry, I was standing still trying to get straw to pay out. We'll try to be a little bit more proactive here. Okay, not very wise of me. I think we still prefer the straw, honestly. If you want me to fight Mega Satan, give me the opportunity to fight Mega Satan via angel statues. But yeah, so, you know, it's weird. It's one of those things where I'm actually, you know, it's not my place to be mad at the developers, but I'm mad at the developers to some extent, or the publisher. Because I want to talk about TrackMania and be like, it's a lot of fun, but you can't talk about TrackMania without part of the chat devolving into a discussion of the business practice, you know? This time I think we'll ball out. Black Candle was well worth it, at least. I don't know. And I'm not admonishing anybody for caring about what you care about. But I'm like, I care about games in a big way. And I've had this exact discussion for a long, long time. I really like playing games. Who doesn't, to some extent? I don't know. A lot of YouTubers are like, playing the games for a job has ruined playing games recreationally for me. And I'm like, I don't know about that one. Kind of a weird take to me. But you know what? Everybody's different, and Po Buddy's nerfed, as Marge Simpson said. It swallowed the bomb up. How about that? What do you got for me? I'll level with you. I think this is a situation where you take the nail. Does the straw give you a speed upgrade, or am I losing my mind? Anyway, but I really, I care about games. I play a lot of games. I get invested in the mechanics. The games industry, I don't really care. I don't care about Ubisoft's, Q3 profits, or oh, what does it mean that Microsoft just got a domain for a new Blinks the Time Sweeper game? I really just don't care. Or what is... And I also, without being too negative or cynical at least, I find a lot of the discussions kind of like a little bit grandiose, where people are like, if we allow this to happen, it could create a slippery slope where every game starts to offer games as a service. You really think TrackMania 14, that is only played by 95,000 Europeans and me, and Wolves at My Door, to be fair, is gonna... People are gonna be like, oh, all of a sudden, hey, if it worked for TrackMania, it could work for anything. I don't think so. I dispute the validity of that argument. I think that's an appeal to emotion. It makes you feel like some kind of soldier in a war trying to preserve the honor of the consumers. And I don't. Well, you know, I dispute it. Let's just put it that way. Hold on, I could really use a speed upgrade here. Would you be so inclined? Okay. You were so inclined. I can't be mad. But I'm not upset with the gamers. I'm upset with the publisher, because if he just released the game for 20 or 30 bucks and said, hey, you can play it forever, people would be like, oh my god, he's so fast. He's so fast. They might be like, that's a little bit expensive for my taste. You really can't win, you know? I've seen developers be frustrated about it on Twitter. You know, if you make something 30 bucks, people go, 30 bucks? Are you insane? That's like infinity money. And if you make something free with microtransactions, like, I don't know. Are we getting into the industry controversy? I guess in 2020 to be mad about microtransactions or discussing it seems kind of quaint, so maybe it's okay. But I find myself not without peer in the industry, but oftentimes when I see some of the stuff my peers get annoyed with, I'm like, really? Like in Valorant, there was a big hubbub. The game's free. There are microtransactions that are insanely expensive. I want to add in the caveat here. None of this applies if you are literally a gambling addict, in which case, please, for the love of God, get some help. Or if you are a child who, you know, and I am going to spend some HP here to try to get a good item, but ability to fly in particular would be really nice here, I think. But I'm always just like, you know, you're 36 years old, dude. Like, I think, and no, this is something that's going to rub some people the wrong way. And that's why I'm so excited to say it. I think you can justify any bad take sometimes. I'm still going to do it. You can justify any bad take by being like, I'm doing it for the people that, you know, aren't gonna speak up. Sometimes I'm like, sure, you know, if somebody's like so disenfranchised or marginalized, nobody's listening to them, that's one thing. But if it's like a microtransaction thing and you're like, I'm speaking up for the 12-year-old kids who can't speak up, I'm like, just don't buy it. I know it's not that simple. I know it's not that simple, but I still struggle with it in my head from time to time, that I'm like, you're mad about like an optional product, you know? I always, and again, none of this applies if you have like a gambling compulsion, but at the same time, I do also think to some extent, like, are there overly exploitative monetization models? Yeah, like NBA 2K having like a literal casino in the game that makes you feel like, oh, you know what's fun is playing the game, but what's even more fun is to go to this in-game casino and maybe get like a 99 overall gold you know, Wilt Chamberlain card that I can put on my team. I'll play one game and then spend $100 at the, you know, Purple Diamond Casino. Like, I think that stuff's insane. But when you have, you know, just like optional microtransactions that are like, you know, $100 gun skin, I'm like, who cares? I'm never gonna buy it. I have bought some stuff now in Warzone, but I will admit that I'm largely doing that for the meme. I don't know if that, you're like, sure, that's what they all say. No, it's not. If you read some harrowing tales of people that are like, I just couldn't stop buying this stuff, they're not like, I did it for the meme. They're like, I need to have this character in my life or I won't feel complete. You know, there's a whole different psychology there. But, sure, this is fine. I don't know, if this is a bad take, by the way, I apologize. It's just how I feel about it. I always think back to, like, there was a, in my hometown, there was a brew pub way before craft brewing became like insanely popular and excellent. But it had something on the menu that was like the baller special or something like that. Everything else was reasonably priced. This was like a $300 item on the menu that was like, you get a bottle of Dom Perignon, which is a very expensive champagne, and then like a slice of pizza. So you get it, like the irony is like you're balling out of control, but also like, you know, it's like a, I don't want to say pizza is like classless, but you've got like a fancy hoity-toity drink and then like a little, you know, proletariat meal. So there's a dichotomy there that's kind of funny. And everybody that saw it on the menu just laughed. But I wonder if there was some people that were like, they should remove this. What about people that will see it and actually buy it? I'm like, dude, I don't know. I'm not really trying to wade into the discussion heavily in one way or the other, but I'm like, you know, purely cosmetic microtransactions. I really, and maybe this is the Galaxy Brain take, I really could not care less what you price them at. Like, if you make Valorant and you're like, what if they released a $50,000 gun skin? Literally does not bother me at all. My life remains unaffected by this. It's I'm not gonna say it's none of my business, but it's more like I don't know. I just don't look at that stuff, and maybe this is coming from a position of privilege, but I look at that stuff and I don't go like, oh, I need to have that so people will know how much I can flex on them. I look at that stuff and go like, man, who's gonna buy that? 50 grand? That's crazy. That's how I look at like things that cost $20 in games. I look at it and I go, you know, 20 bucks. I could get a nice Thai dinner for two with that. Not in Vancouver, but like theoretically, if I was in another part of the country at least. Anyway, so that, for someone who doesn't seem to care, I mean, really, there was a big argument for me to just emphasize that that's how little I care about the business side of the industry. Like, I would talk your ear off about how a game plays, all of the mechanics in this are, like, so satisfying. They're like, how do you feel about the fact that, you know, for $100 you can buy a Notice Me Senpai car skin? I'm like, I really don't, it's not, you know. Honestly, here's my take on that stuff. Every time I make fun of Steam for having 900 anime match 3 horned up games released every single day, I get a little bit of pushback from people that go, hey, just because you don't like it doesn't mean, you know, nobody likes it. How dare you criticize virtual girlfriend VR simulators on Steam? Well, it's, you know, mostly just I'm doing it for a cheap laugh, I'll admit. But however, I mean, if you're going to defend the right of those quick iterative releases that exist basically to arouse you and get you to hand over $3, I feel like that it's a little hypocritical to look at another game or another company that's offering cosmetic DLC and be like, that's not okay. But maybe I'm misinformed about the situation. And I don't know, 2020's been pretty wild so far. I don't even know if anybody's concerned or at all interested in talking about DLC in games when there's other issues at play. I just found myself here because I posted the TrackMania video, and I was like, this game's fun. And people were like, yeah, it's fun, but the business model is slightly suboptimal. And I'm like, I get it. It's Titanfall. I was there. You know, everyone was excited for Titanfall 1. Then people started to... It happened with Siege too, although it got better, you know? Siege was kind of... It's a $60, at least when it was originally released. It was a $60 multiplayer-only shooter. And for a while, people were like, I don't know if I want to get a game for $60 that doesn't have a single-player campaign. And I think there's a justifiable reason for that. I love single-player games. I love multiplayer games too, but I like them both. But I'll tell you, with Titanfall 1, my hunch for as long as I've been thinking about it, and with Siege as well, which is recovered, admittedly, but my hunch is that probably at least 75% of the people who said that they weren't going to buy it because it didn't have a single-player campaign. Probably would have played like 2 or 3 levels of the single-player campaign at most, and then been like, I'm gonna go online. That's my thoughts. But again, maybe it's NL's bad take day. Oh well. I mean, I really think it is kind of, to some extent, it's like getting older. Like when CSGO was when the CSGO market started popping off, I was definitely not interested in it, but more interested in it then than I would be now, for sure. Now when, like, you know, the microtransaction market for a game is popping off, I really couldn't care less. We don't need any of that. We're killing it right here. Like, I bet I spent a couple of $100 on CSGO. And but that was even before they added in, like, the CSGO lotto stuff. Where you could, like, bet crates and win $1,000. But it really reached a fever pitch for me in terms of, like, distaste. When PUBG got popular and people were buying and selling, like, PlayerUnknown's bandana for $400 on the Steam Marketplace. I honestly think that I was... I'm not politically radicalized, but I think I was radicalized like 2% when I saw all the PlayerUnknown market trading, and I went to myself like, people are paying money for a digital item that you can wear in the game, but really like one dude I remember reading a story, or maybe it was I honestly I can't remember the source, so take this with a grain of salt, but I thought somebody in the PUBG community was like, hey, I spent $100,000 buying all of the Steam Marketplace listings for PlayerUnknown's Trenchcoat. And the idea, this happens in Magic too, which is another reason I was annoyed with it. But, you know, the idea was, hey, if I buy all the supply, I can basically choose what the price is set at. And, you know, there's an upper limit. Like, people aren't going to pay $100,000 each for the coats. But, you know, instead of maybe letting the supply and demand of, forgive the term, but the supply and demand of the free market determine it, I can essentially do price fixing because I hold the entire supply. And I remember just reading that and being like, we got lucky there. I remember reading that and being like, this is not, like, real. Like the value of this good is no longer tied in any way, shape, or form to his actual, like, utility. Like, the value is exclusively determined by the amount that other people actually want it, which is really exclusively determined by how much other people think they could resell it for. And then I went, wait a minute. That's the Vancouver property market, and the rest is history. I bought a house. It's not where you expected that to go, but yeah. So I don't know. I'm pretty much, maybe it's a radical centrist take, but I'm like, for me, life's too short to get mad at game publishers' business models. I basically have come to treat it as, and by the way, if I was like 14, it would be the exact opposite. I would be like on all the comments being like, this is outrageous, how dare they treat us like this. But you know, as times have changed, why walk into it is just a really good question to ask yourself. I'm more like, oh, that game that I was really looking forward to, it turns out they're releasing it, it's $500. Guess I won't buy it. And you might be saying, NL, that's because you get review codes anyway. I'll tell you, I think for a YouTuber who plays, you know, one new game every single day, on top of occasionally more than one new game, depending on, you know, NLSS, streaming stuff, etc., etc., I think I buy way more games than average. Especially, like, over the past, like, month or so for Northernlion tries. We've had such a small backlog. It's a privilege to be able to do it, I want to be clear, but we've had such a small backlog for it that the choice is like, hey, you could spend $10 or $5 and buy the game yourself, or you could send the developer an email. You won't be able to record right away. They'll probably get back to you within 24 or 48 hours with a code, but, you know, you'd rather have the video out in 12 hours or something. I buy more than my fair share, so I'm just trying to, you know, tell you I'm still a man of the people. I'm a man of the land. I'm into discipline. Got my billing address saved and my credit card pin. Are you one of those people who gets annoyed by when people say ATM machine or PIN number? Just checking. I have strong opinions about this. I saw a tweet the other day, and look, the guy is like a linguist or a writer or some kind of word professional. He has the right to be annoyed by things in his field that I don't understand, and I have the right in my field to kind of dunk on it asymmetrically without him knowing that it's happening, and probably misrepresent his argument to make mine look stronger. As is the way of the internet. But Merriam-Webster added the word irregardless to the dictionary. Why would that be, to the English dictionary, I should say. Why would that be a problem? Well, for a long time, people have derived their self-worth from knowing the arbitrary rules of English better than any of their peers. Regardless is a word, which means that in any case, no matter what, regardless of what's happening, you know, my point is this. But irregardless was something that people would say that was kind of it's not a real word, but everybody knew what it meant. So really, here's how the conversation would go. Irregardless of that, you know, it's like flammable and inflammable meaning the same thing. Regardless and irregardless meant the same thing, so it would annoy some people if you said irregardless, because they're like, irregardless isn't the word, you mean regardless. And I was like, you know, whenever that happened to me, because I would say irregardless, or I could care less, also annoyed some people. Whenever that I would be corrected on that, it always annoyed me, because we'd be in the middle of like a conversation where we're making a point, and they're like, hey, I know that we're supposed to be like listening to each other and making a point, but I just thought what would really help out the rapport between us right now is if I issued a completely, like, ludicrously, finicky correction. Even though I completely understand what you're saying, I thought I would like put you on the back foot and make you defensive about your use of the one language you know and use every day. So really, like, the merits of your arguments, I wasn't really paying attention to. All I was paying attention to while you talked was having the opportunity to correct you and feel intellectually superior. So Merriam-Webster added that to their to the English dictionary, and the guy made a post on Twitter that was like, where were you when the English language died, or something like that. And Merriam-Webster hit him back in a good way. I loved it. They said, yes, you're literally dying right now, or something like that. Because, again, you know, literally is one of those words people get annoyed by. Because you're not literally dying, but still, if someone says, I'm literally starving right now, you know they're not starving. But also, you know what they mean. They're hungry. They're hungry, and they're using it as an opportunity for a little bit more flavorful language. So why are you being weird about it? So and again, it doesn't matter where I side, because I don't know anything about, you know, dictionary science. But I'm of the opinion, I'm of two opinions that both reinforce the same point for me here. The first one is that if you understand what someone means, then them using the exact proper verbiage and grammar is irrelevant, in my opinion. Full stop. If you know what someone means, there's a difference between, like, I don't understand what you're writing because you're spelling things super badly. You know, if you have to struggle to understand them, that's one thing. But if you're just like, aha, it appears you've said, you know, octopuses instead of octopi, which I know is actually, you can say octopuses or octopodes, and it's still correct. But, you know, that's, you know, I think if you understand what they're saying, then why be anal about it? And then they always come into the guise of like, well, I just don't want anyone else to correct you in the future. You're the one doing the correcting, mister. Anyway, I also think, and this is tangential to the first point, I think if we all played by exclusively the pre-written rules of whatever language we're operating in, you would get a lot less colorful language, you know? And I don't just mean swears. I mean, come on, dude, come on. I mean, you know, playing around with the rules of language is how you end up with your, you know, your Lewis Carrolls and your William Shakespeares and so. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Carroll. When you said beware the Jabberwock, my son, the claws that catch, the jaws that bite, did you mean beware of the Jabberwock? I mean, come on. Are you saying the Jabberwock should beware, or I should be aware of it? I don't, you know, you get the idea. And then the second thing is that language evolves all the time, you know? And a dictionary, well, I guess it depends on how you see the causal relationship between the dictionary and the language. Do you think the dictionary should be a rule book that teaches people how they're able to use the language they communicate in, or do you think that the dictionary should be a reference guide to how people actually use the language? That's and I think, as you know, I talk about the education system occasionally letting us down. This is a very minor example, in my opinion, of that, but I think we've been taught as children that, you know, if it ain't in the dictionary, is not a real word, whereas what we should be looking to it as is like the dictionary is like a living reference manual of how the language is being used. So, you know, maybe it's not a real word, but it might become a real word. Like, you know, are you going to lose your mind if yeet gets added into the dictionary? I would rather yeet get added into the dictionary because I don't see that as Merriam-Webster being like, you can now use the word yeet. I see it as a situation where Merriam-Webster is going, hey, people are using this word to mean this, so let's get a catalog of that going somewhere. But I don't know, some people disagree with me, quite frankly, and see Merriam-Webster as like the Doctor Strange of the English language, protecting it from all sorts of assaults like YOLO and sus. And I very much disagree. Here's what I will say, though. This run is great, but also a little scary. So let's see. I mean, we have 8 luck, dude. Let's see if we can just put this together. Stop walking into our own bombs is a really important step. Without a doubt. Like we almost did it again right there. Yeah, I mean, my advice, I'm not trying to get into an argument. My advice is care less, quite frankly. Not about everything. Some things are very worth caring about. But this particular issue, whether or not the dictionary is gonna, you know... I mean, I guess where I come at it from is I bet that this person, well, I bet people who are upset about this, let's not specifically say this person, are the kind of people that have corrected people about it for years, and now that Merriam-Webster, aka their childhood crush, is not on their side, it's annoying for them. But maybe I don't know, again, I'm not a linguist. I'm coming at you with the hot takes today. Just spiders, please. Demon baby. Mr. Mega was a really good pickup here. I have an utmost respect for the English language. If anything, people tell me all the time, oh, you're so verbose, you know, your vocabulary is so big, and the way that you phrase things, I really do take pride in the way that I phrase things. I try to phrase them in the most, not only the most specific way possible, which makes me sound like a, you know, 1980s computer before they had, you know, human beings who knew how to talk to other people start to work on human-computer interfaces so that it wasn't like, enter dash mainframe reg, and people were like, what? Now, Microsoft greets you with like a calming female voice that is like, hey, welcome to Windows. Please insert your social security number. Insert would not have... Look, I apologize for my misspeaking there. English is literally dead. Anyway. I take pride in my use of language, and I try to, you know, not just say what I mean, but say what I mean in the way that most induces people to feel what I want them to feel when they hear it, you know? So instead of being like, I went to the grocery store yesterday, you won't believe what happened, you gotta be like, you guys are not gonna believe this. You build a story, you know? There's a storytelling aspect to it. There's an acting aspect to it. I respect the English language. Like Larry David respects wood. Or like the desert missed the rain. Which is why I a lot. Just to make sure I've got the exact perfect diction. But I'm not a rigid structuralist when it comes to language. I don't know. I feel like, however so many people in our culture came to believe that, you know, being the best at English means like knowing what the past participle is very silly. That's just my 2 cents. By the way, if you've ever taught ESL but never learned a second language, I hope you're with me on this one. Because, like, you know, I've been teaching ESL a little bit to Kate's mom. And sometimes, like, she'll ask me a question I literally can't answer. Like, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what a past participle is. You don't need to know what a past participle is to be a master wordsmith in the English language. You know? I mean, maybe it helps, but I genuinely, sometimes she'll ask me like a hyper-specific grammar question, and I'm like, I gotta be honest with you, it takes me 20 seconds of concerted thought to come up with what an adverb is. Is an adverb like quickly? It's like an adjective verb? I really don't know, but at the same time, I like to think that I could weave you an incredible tale that linguistically takes you on a journey the likes of which you experience only rarely. So, I guess that's what informs my decision there, but I look at it the same way. Like, I hate to say it, but it's like a very old man yells at clouds sort of thing. Like, anytime I'm at a sporting event and you know, the kids are doing like Fortnite dances on the Jumbotron and some 22-year-old is like, ugh. The younger generation is so stupid. I'm like, you're stupid, idiot. It's just like an 8-year-old kid doing a dance. Get over it. Stop taking yourself so seriously, you weirdo. You're watching, you know, 35 grown millionaires hit a rubber disc around. And you think the 8-year-old kid dancing is silly? You paid $200 for that seat. You're barely fitting it. It's like you got no leg room. It's like flying in cargo. Anyway. I'm not saying the person is big. I'm saying the seats are small. You wouldn't understand, okay? Rogers Arena in British Columbia, in Vancouver, is one of the oldest arenas in the league now. It was built in 2000, which is pretty crazy because, like, by large building standards, that's not that old. But by NHL stadium standards, it's, you know, I mean, it's no Saddle Dome, which I think was built in, like, 1986 or something like that, but still. Hey, hey, hey. Stop it. Just Demon Baby's got you. So many ace of clubs. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that subject. Thanks for watching. You shouldn't derive your English language value from correcting other people. You should derive it from the trash talk you can spit out when you kill them in Call of Duty Warzone. It's just that simple. If you wilt like a shaded lettuce leaf, if some 12-year-old goes, you probably live in your mom's basement, you're not ready yet. You have to be able to hit them with a withering retort that honestly makes them question their whole raison d'etre. Please just let me finish this run. I'm speaking French. I beg you. Yeah, just keep walking. You know, I'm super thankful that whatever happened on this run, somehow it really did not matter at all that we took a bunch of damage, because we're getting hit fairly frequently. There we go. There's our boss fight. Did we do the little things right? I think we did for a long time. And then it all fell apart, but still remained pretty much amazing. Thankfully. I'm very thankful for it. Like the deserts thank the rain. And then when people regret buying the Valorant microtransactions, I think it's a worthwhile lesson. Wait a minute, this wasn't worth $500. Yeah, dummy, none of it is. It's digital paint. Anyway, that's my wrap-up thoughts here. I'm out of here. What a strange run. For now, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button. I'll be a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Hey, see ya.